science of the devil, what is soon coming upon us. A science of the devil, seducing spirits are coming in.
Okay, so El Andrew has welcomed you. I also want to welcome you, and this is hopefully the beginning of a series of discussions that we'll have around the principally the topic of the vaccines and other issues that are emerging, and anything else that really seems to threaten our survival, as it were, as believers, as children of God. And the question really being posed is, how do we survive in order to thrive? And there is a statement here which says survival is merely the avoidance of dying, whilst thriving is the abundance of living. And how to do both is man's desperate desire, whether he recognizes it or not. And this is the situation that we find ourselves in as believers, as Christians. How do we survive in order to thrive? And the Bible has many scriptures really concerning that. And I guess I'm going to have to straddle the two aspects of this, which is to not only look at some of the information, but also to look at the scriptures that speak to some of that. All right, let's have a word of prayer before we begin. Dear Lord, most kind and loving Father, we come to you once again, asking that you would send help for our time of need, that you would be in the midst of this meeting now, in the midst of this presentation and discussion. These things we pray in the blessed name of Yeshua the Messiah, the one we call Jesus Christ. We say, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so this is my disclaimer at the moment. So there may be some information which may be unpleasant to hear. And this is really a second outing of really putting this program together. So I'm just going to I only have a couple of presentations at the moment, and then we're going to open up the floor for discussion after I've gone through a couple of things. Okay. So there are several concerns that I've outlined here. There are still more, but I haven't got them all on here. So the first one is the two narratives, and really, I've only got the slides for the two narrative at the moment. Then the early history of vaccines and the recent history of the mRNA vaccines. The UK response, the third concern, UK response to the unfolding COVID-19 crisis. 4, the opening of the floodgates to animal direct human challenge trials. 5, the opening of the floodgates to greater disease. 6, the obstruction of all alternative medicines and therapeutics. And 7, hesitancy and resistance. So we're not going to go through all of those this evening. Really, we're looking at the first aspect, which is really just to explore aspects of the narrative and to see what your thoughts are concerning that as well. Okay. So the two narratives, these are the narratives that are being told at the moment. So the vaccines are safe and effective, and taking them will protect you and the NHS. And the second one is not taking them may not only cause your own death, but damage the NHS and will expedite the spread of COVID-19 and its variants to others. So the two narratives that are being told, one view is based on political expediency with the use of propaganda to further its aims, censorship through mainstream media platforms and browsers. And the other is based on an awareness of suppressed data, and those who are hesitant are wary to lend support to the government's mandate to roll out vaccines en masse. Experimental mRNA vaccines upon the UK population. And those who care to do a little research may well discover that they're not being told the whole truth. So this is the current situation. I don't know if you have thought on this right now, and you can ask a question, if you will, if you wish to, as I continue. So if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, and the elder will be able to recognize that, and he can bring it to attention, and then it can be put out to for response as well. So I myself don't have all the answers. All right, so from essentially from the beginning of this crisis, there have been many issues, many concerns that have been raised by individuals and concerning this. And in this understanding of the two narrative, one seems to be the broad way and another seems to be the narrow way. And those who are refusing seem to be the ones who are on the narrow way, as it were, because, according to the government statistics, there's about 5 million people who are hesitant, and most of the population, up to 75%, have been vaccinated, even though there has been some reluctance in taking up the second and the booster as well. So the question really is, are we on the broad way or are we on the narrow way? And those who are hesitant, are they being selfish? Are they obstructing the idea of herd immunity that would protect the whole of the country? And so there's lots of data that is out there that suggests that, well, maybe it's the fact that so many people are being are vaccinated, that there is this increase in infections going on, and maybe if not so many people were vaccinated, then this infectious the infectiousness of the virus would not be so bad, and there would be less variants. So where are we in this journey? Trying to understand the two aspects of this problem with the uptake and those who are not taking it up. But I want to really go to something else that may be of interest to you. And so I want to share the screen with another aspect. So just bear with me a moment. Because I haven't got it all on the slide, I have to go to the particular website. So I want to just give you an idea. Okay. So I got the right one. Sorry for this. Can you see this? All right. So I think I may have shared the wrong one. Hold on. I have so many open. Trying to find the right one becomes a bit of a problem. All right. So this is the one. So I could have this done a bit more smoother. If I don't get it up properly, then I'm just going to talk without using that. Are you seeing a search page?
Yeah.
The same one. Okay. All right. All right. Then it's not working as I had intended. So, try one more time. Okay, I think this is probably. Okay. So this is from the Moderna website, and it goes through what does an mRNA do, and it said it produces instructions to make proteins that may treat or prevent disease. So mRNA medicines aren't small molecules like traditional pharmaceuticals, and they aren't traditional biologics. Recombinant proteins and monoclonal antibodies, which were the genesis of the biotech industry. Instead, mRNA vaccines are a set of instructions, and these instructions direct cells in the body to make proteins to prevent or fight disease. And so the key word in that statement really is a set of instructions, and the fact that it is a set of instructions means that there is something going on. So there is a package of information that is given to the mRNA, and then it sets about trying to actually perform the function. And so here we see the double helix strand, and then the parent DNA, and then the RNA. So the RNA is what is given instructions. And so because I haven't been able to bring up the other articles, I'm still putting together the presentation. but I do have the articles that show the research and state clearly that there is a machine code. So the DNA is based on 4 characters, 4 letters, and that seems like a code in itself, and which allowed the human genome to be mapped. And so what they have worked out now is that they're able to use that code just like machine code. And so if you've ever had the experience of programming, the base programming of any computer is machine code, whether it's hexadecimal or binary. And so you can actually create a sequence, just like you are writing a letter. So you have a sequence of steps or instructions that you would submit to a program. And when you submit that, it will carry out the instructions. So this is what is happening with the RNA. They actually have an application where they can put in sequences. They can describe the steps that they want to be performed, and then the program will produce the DNA sequence that will go into the RNA. So they can build essentially, this protein for the RNA, and it goes out and it will perform the program that is been created for it. So this is what's happening with the RNA, and then it moves across to produce the proteins, and these proteins essentially assemble in the way that they have been programmed. So essentially, with the mRNA vaccines or this technology, they can cause it to do anything basically that they want to do. And so there are a number of things.
I saw one once with a radio. It's so good.
So there are a number of things they're able to do now. So Stanford, in one of the articles by Sebastian Anthony, so Stanford University creates biological transistors, the final step towards computers inside living cells, it says. So the bioengineers at Stanford University have created the first biological transistor made from genetic materials, DNA and RNA, dubbed the transcriptor. This biological transistor is the final component required to build biological computers that operate inside living cells. So we are now tantalizingly close, they say, to biological computers that can detect and change in a cell's environment, store a record of that change in memory made of DNA, and then trigger some kind of response, say commanding a cell to stop producing insulin or to self-instruct if cancer is detected. So this is just one article, and it shows how they go about doing that. So they have a transistor, and the next one is where they are using, all of this is done through CRISPR technology. So CRISPR is used to build also a dual core computer inside human cells. So this is an article by Stephen Emmett, and it says the CRISPR gene editing system is usually known for helping scientists treat genetic diseases, but the technology has a whole range of possible uses in synthetic biology too. So now researchers at ETH Zurich have used CRISPR to build functional biocomputers inside human cells. Okay, as powerful as modern computers are, nature bested us long ago. Living organisms could be thought of as computers already. Their cells act like logic gates, taking input from the outside world, processing it, and responding with certain metabolic processes. The human body itself is a large computer, says Martin Fussenegger, lead researcher of the study. Its metabolism has drawn on the computing power of trillions of cells since time immemorial. And in contrast to a technical supercomputer, this large computer needs just a slice of bread for energy. So tapping into these natural processes to build logic circuits is a key goal of synthetic biology. When Moderna described their technology as basically using a set of instructions, they are literally talking about this kind of technology where they can design, and it is storing information, just like this article suggests, and it's able to give instructions and command it to do certain things in the body. So this is a technology which has been used many times before. Let me just come out of this. So I want to take you to another reference. So that there has been question about whether or not, not whether or not COVID-19 is real. We know that it's you know, it's a disease that has been going around the world and that many people have been affected by it. And but one could say that there was a lot of conspiracy concerning its origin. And Dr. Fauci, the lead doctor advising the United States president on the crisis and the nature of the virus, how it came into being, and the question of whether it came from Wuhan or not. You know, right now he is being investigated, and a number of senators are questioning him concerning what they call the gain of function research. The gain of function research is to take something from nature, from animals and so forth, these viruses, and to increase the transmissibility of them to human beings. And the basis of this is to get ahead of diseases or of pandemics and so forth. So he's denied that that kind of research was being done. So really, I want to take you to a particular document just to share that with you. And I mean, later on, I can have handouts if they are needed. So you can see this, yeah? All right. Okay. Can you see the document?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. All right. So it says SARS-like WIV1 CoV poised for human emergence. And there are a number of people to this particular article. So this here was approved January 6, 2016. It was quite a while ago. So I'm just going to read this colorful section here. So the outbreaks from zoonotic sources, essentially animals, represent a threat to both human disease as well as the global economy, despite a wealth of metagenomic studies, methods to leverage these data sets to identify future threats to which threats are undeveloped. So in this study, we describe an approach that combines existing metagenomics data with reverse genetics to engineer reagents to evaluate emergence and pathogenic potential of circulating zoonotic viruses. So these animal viruses, which may be floating around, that have the potential to cause pandemics or cross over into the human pool, genetic pool, and cause pandemics. So focusing on the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, like viruses, the results indicate that the WIV1 coronavirus, COV, cluster has the ability to directly infect and may undergo limited transmission in human population. However, in vivo attenuation suggests additional adaptation is required for epidemic disease. So this statement is saying that it hasn't quite reached the plateau where it can become a pandemic generating virus, okay? So importantly, available SARS monoclonal antibodies offered success in limiting viral infection, absent from available vaccine approaches. So together, the data highlight the utility of a platform to identify and prioritize pandemic strains harbored in animal reservoirs and document the threat posed by the W1V COV for emergence in human population. So the whole purpose of this paper is to do experiments that will increase the transmissibility of these animal-based viruses to create a pandemic. And so then the purpose was basically this gain of function research, which was denied by Fauci. And the connection between Wuhan was also denied as well. So I'm just going to the end, just because there's another section which I've outlined. So this is the construction of chimeric SARS-like viruses, which means that it's creating a bridge between animal and human. It's a chimera. So both wild type and chimeric WIV co-infectious clones were designed. So these were designed using published sequences and based on the SARS-CoV infectious clone. Synthetic constructions of these chimeric mutant and full-length WIV1 CoV were approved by the UNC Institutional Biosafety Committee and the Dual Use of Research of Concern Committee. All right, so it states clearly there that this chimera was being created and it was also approved. All right, so I go down to this final section here, which is the acknowledgements. And so we thank Dr. Zhengli Li Shi of the Wuhan Institute of Virology for access to bat CoV sequences and plasmid of WIV1 CoV spike protein. So in that document shows the connection really from 2016 that they were already trying to create this kind of this hybrid, this chimera, and to create a strain that would be able to infect, as that first reading showed. That so this is a document essentially that is a smoking gun, really, that kind of shows that there was this connection, there was this intent to create that with the function to get ahead of it, to get ahead of pandemics. But in the process, they created something that would cause a pandemic. And so then I have the patents that show where the SARS-CoV-2, SARS-CoV was patented by the CDC. I haven't got it on my presentation right now, and I don't have it open. But the patent is for the sequencing of the virus, and also for the antivirus as well. So there are two main patents. So one is actually for the virus itself, which the SARS-CoV-2 is based on the same genetic framework of the SARS-CoV. And so SARS-CoV-2 is just a variant of that one. That one seems to be the root and the source of everything else that followed afterwards. So let me come out of this. Are there any thoughts on this so far? So there's much more information that I could share, but I don't want to overload you this evening. I just want to take on board what I've shown you thus far, and we can explore this aspect of Hello? Was someone saying something? All right. Do we have any questions?
Yes, one question, Pastor. So, based on the documents which you have just shown us, can we conclude or interpret that this virus is not really a natural virus?
Well, yeah, this is what the evidence is showing, that that it's not natural, that it has a foundation that that suggests that it was created. You know, so can you hear me? Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
we can. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it seems to have a framework that suggests that, look, that they've been working on this, and this is what has been denied for quite a while. And you know, the evidence is there that not only is the technology there, but the foundation has been established to build, you know, to do this kind of research, to do this crossover research between animals and humans, and that there is that the bridge technology is the mRNA technology that is also linked to this this new field of biology that merges physics, the fields of physics, computing, and biology and chemistry. So all of these fields are converging to create this new biological technology, which is comparable to you know computers. Whether you have a laptop or a desktop or your phone, that the biological equivalent has been created. And you know, if you zoomed in, you wouldn't see wires and so forth in there, because what they've used DNA and RNA, and they've used the basic components of biology, but they have created the equivalents of you know, the technology that we're familiar with computers, you know, transistors, resistors, you know, the central processing unit, which is referred to as the core, you know, the CPU, central processing unit. So they have a biological equivalent, and they're able, they have created a dual core version, a biological version of, you know, the material computer technology that we're used to. So it all looks like normal living matter, but it's programmable, which is why Moderna can use the information on their website to say that it follows a set of instructions, because it literally does. And so they can write a program for a cell or the RNA to do a particular function, to follow a set of instructions. And then once they have written that the instructions, and then they make it active, then it will go and do what it's been instructed to do. So one article that I read said that they, out of 60 programs that they wrote for the RNA and the DNA, 45 of them worked exactly as they were designed to do. So 45 out of 60 ran as intended, and it's a next level technology, really. It's a next level technology. Are there any other questions?
Pastor.
Mm-hmm.
There is evidence that COVID-19 has also been found in animals, and that includes cats, dogs, ferrets, and minks, and some domesticated animals and deer. So it is a difficult one to say that it's not a zoonosis that probably jumped from animals to humans. The problem we have is this: the origin of this virus, where it has been documented, there is no transparency whatsoever with the first cases, with the lab information. The World Health Organization has tried to get stuff from China, and they can't get stuff from China. All they could get was a virus specimen. That's all they could get. They can't get into the records. They can't get into the autopsies. They can't get into the food markets either. This is the other problem. So when we have a situation like that, it gets really difficult for the whole world. It's selfishness on part of the Chinese not to give this kind of knowledge to the world, because it's a public health problem. It's a global health problem. But they have not been forthcoming with any details. And this is where the whole problem is. So the rest of the world is working on virus specimen samples that they've had to deal with. The origins of it, we know very well that there's a lot of consumption of wild meat in China, snakes, millipedes, you name it, they eat anything. And this is how things that are normally found in animals end up in human beings. Consumption of unclean meat. We see this, we've seen this with HIV, we've seen this with the Ebola virus. Deadly, deadly things. They've come from animals. The problem with COVID-19 is that there is no transparency whatsoever with the origins of this problem. And they will not let the public health people, CDC, UN, anybody, they will not let them have the stuff. This is where the problem is. So it is a very difficult and helpless situation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It is a difficult one, and yeah, China has been very protective of its information. But what we have seen, you know, really, I don't like to quote stuff without having the evidence or showing you the evidence, because I don't want it to be, you know, classed as conspiracy or, you know, baseless or factless. But
from what I've seen, some of the other patents, they go back to really 2000, 2003, 4. These particular ones that are looking at the SARS-CoV and the patenting of it. The CDC was seeking a patent way before 2003, and when it discovered something, when we had the MERS and the other ones, other animal outbreaks earlier, you know, they wanted to patent the virus itself, the COVID virus, and the patent office would not allow them to patent. They say you can't patent nature, and so then began a series of research where they were, you know, trying to create these chimeras and create a bridge, and for the purposes, as they said at the time, is to get ahead of the pandemic. But there's also the aspect of biowarfare, and so Moderna is linked with DARPA. So I mean, that's something that I wanted to get into next time. So because there is motive aside from China. So China may be the scapegoat, you know, but China may also have had their own agenda. So with the claims that have been made against Fauci, who was the head of the NIH at the time, when Obama was in office, this gain of function research was being done. Obama shut it down, and then it's alleged that Fauci now, he outsourced this research to the Wuhan lab in China, but not directly, indirectly through other organizations. He funded the research. You know, the document that I showed you, where it showed the emergence of the SARS-like virus that was ready for human emergence. You know, that showed in the acknowledgement that there was a link to Wuhan, and that's just in 2016. You know, but patents were lodged earlier than that, so between 2003 and 2004. So these are US patents, right? So what's alleged is that there is a connection between the States and China, and that you know, that there was an underhand way of doing this research. And so from China's end, the world gets to understand that this virus came, you know, was somehow released in China, whether it was through the wet markets or the meat markets or not, where they have lots of animals. In the testing period, they were testing on a number of different animals anyway. And the research itself was based on causing transmissibility between animals and humans. So ordinarily, there wouldn't be this jump between animals to humans. But this is what they were creating. So as that the article showed, the research paper showed, they were creating a chimera. So a chimera is a bridge between the two. And I mean, once you create that bridge and it escapes, then it's out there. So there has been, you know, you mentioned minks, and that's just one of the animal reservoirs that have been affected in a dramatic way. So around the world, where you've got mink farms in Europe and in the United States, you've had hundreds and thousands of minks that have died. And in one case, 3,000 minks died because a farm worker who had COVID-19, it jumped from that worker to the minks, and then 3,000 of them died, of the minks died. They were all suffering from COVID-19, so respiratory problems and flu-like problems and so forth. So they died, but then it was also going around Europe, and where it also jumped from animals to humans. So this is something that notable virologists have said that, you know, that this can happen with the vaccines. You know, that there
Yeah,
can,
Pastor, I think the other problem is that the word patent may make people think that it's man-made.
well,
There are patents for natural viruses, because why they have patents is that they can harvest a virus, grow it in the lab, create vaccines with it. And so it's a technology that if they've got huge volumes of it, they can sell to other labs. But patents are there, registered patents for the swine flu, HIV, you name it. But what I'm saying is that the debate about whether it's a man-made virus, whether the Americans were involved in handing it over to China, here is the problem. The public health has always warned about accidents in labs. They've always warned about accidents in labs, and these are serious problems, because if you've got a small outbreak of a virus, and then you harvest the virus and culture it, you actually run a risk of an outbreak from lab accidents. So the public health is no different from what would happen in a nuclear lab, where if you've got a nuclear plant that's poorly managed and you end up with an accident and disaster. Same thing with microbiology. The virologists are the dreaded people, because they used to keep smallpox, they used to keep all sorts of things. And everyone was worried that, look, you guys, do you need to keep these things, especially if the diseases are gone? And then that problem comes when there are secrets and secretic operations by the Americans and other people on biological warfare. So such accidents were anticipated long back, that once you start culturing these things, even if it's for medicinal purposes or for pharmaceutical vaccines or whatever, the risk of accidents is always there. And the risk of a lab person taking that virus out into the community is always there. So my point is that it's nice to discuss it, but the problem is the theories of conspiracies may never end. We may never see the end of it, but we always anticipated accidents from these things. Whether you're going to construct a virus, whether you're going to culture a natural virus to create vaccines, we always anticipated accidents. And I'm sure that the Wuhan problem was probably an accident in the lab that spilled out into the community. And that has always been a worry about these the virologists, because they can't contain their viruses once they're out of the lab. This is the problem. So the problem is,
All right. Well, all right. I mean, I hear you saying, all right, with regards to patents, essentially, you can only patent something if there is an inventive step. So there has to be a new inventive step, whether it's mechanical or so forth. I mean, I've written patents before, and I've submitted them to the patent office. So I understand the process of patents, and you can pull a patent out if you wish after a certain period of time without it being published. But if your patent is similar to someone else's, then you may not be granted the patent. So there has to be something unique, right? So the patent office, the US Patent Office, rejected the CDC many times, saying that they cannot patent nature. I mean, that's on record. They cannot patent nature, which is what they were trying to do. So there has to be something unique to what they're doing. It may look natural, as you're suggesting, but there has to be something which they have created or added that is not from nature, or that is not natural, which creates a new function. So in the case of the mRNA technology, they have merged the computer technology with the biological, not by merging, the electronics, but the idea of how it works. So, generally it's a binary-based system, ones and zeros, right? So then that is translated into the biological arena by finding the biological equivalent of a 1 and a 0. So whether it's a protein or a sugar, and then they will program it in a particular way so that it will follow out a set of instructions. So this now is not according to nature, but they have created something that functions like a computer using the equivalent of ones and zeros to follow out a given set of instructions. The language on the Moderna site says clearly that it follows a set of instructions. That's something that follows the idea of patentability, right? So it's a patented technology that functions in a particular way. And, and if you were to troll through the patents, then you would see how they describe how these features work. So to say that it's natural doesn't follow along with the principle of patentability. So you can have things which are intellectual property or design right. Design right then is based on the feature of how it looks and so forth, and copyright, intellectual property, something that you've written or you've produced in some unique way, but when it comes to patents, there must be an inventive step. There must be an inventive step. And so in the article, in that research paper, it showed that they were trying to create a chimera. The chimera in itself is something that is unique, a hybrid between two genetic pools, the human population. So the fact that it opens it up to zoonotic is not simply leaving it to one species. It opens up to a vast array, whether it's mice, cats, dogs, monkeys, and for each of these, they have been designing vaccines for them as well. So it's a vast area, and in terms of accidents, as you've mentioned, it could well be an accident, and that's the thing that we are not sure of. But two Chinese generals, they wrote a book called Unrestricted Warfare, and this book was written a while ago, but it was, how can a lesser nation overcome a superior nation? How can they defeat a superior nation? And in this book, they outline the fact that America has rules of engagement, and when it comes to warfare, there are rules of engagement, and the book suggests that they must have no rules, that America is restricted, they must be unrestricted. And so then warfare, according to the book, traditional means of warfare, with military, the Air Force, the Navy, but it has enlarged its environment and its means of attack. So to include not only space, but the biological, nano, so on all scales, there is warfare going on, all right? And biological warfare is also an emerging threat that has been, those are one of the areas or the environs of warfare that was mentioned in the book. And there are other sources that refer to this level of biological warfare. So just as you said, accidents happen, but having read, aspects of that book, one wonders, was it an accident or was it a declaration of war? You had people in the country at the time of the outbreak from, other parts of the world. And instead of being quarantined, they were allowed to go back to their countries. If you quarantine people, then you contain the outbreak, right? But no one was quarantined, and they were allowed to go back to their country. Essentially, one could say they were like time bombs being sent back to their own country. And then China follows up with selling PPE to the world. It's questionable. It's questionable. But where do we stand in this situation as Christians? Who are we leaning on? Who are we trusting in? What narrative are we following? These are questions that we have to answer for ourselves, and we need to trust in God for everything, and we need to put everything to God, to make wise choices, wise decisions. But this is where we are, and we're in this place where there are stories and narratives being told, and we're not necessarily sure which one is true. Where do we go from here? Who do we trust? Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm also think that because we trust in God, we should not be anxious as Christians at all. For those who've taken the vaccine and those who've chosen not to take the vaccine, the trust is in God. So I just think that we ought to depend on Him in every sense. So we have to stop being restless about whether we're vaccinated or not, because we have surrendered everything to God, whether it threatens our livelihood or not. We just have to learn to trust the Lord about that. And this doesn't take God by surprise anyway. So God knows the beginning and the end of it. So I think that whatever stance we've taken with the best information that we have and the best decisions we can make, I think we can safely surrender to God and say, God, this is my opinion, this is what I think. Can you protect us? Whatever the situation is.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Many people have taken the vaccines already. Many Christians, many believers, and they've done so with goodwill and for protection and so forth. Also to maintain their employment, and they've had to wrestle with that that decision, and whatever happens, because of their choice as well, that's something that they've had to wrestle with. And I know that there has been a lot of discussion about that. There's been a lot of fear as well. And, even in Parliament, an MP referred to the Conservative government as generating a level of fear in the population, to herd them towards taking vaccines, being vaccinated en masse as the solution to the problem. And the fear has been the main thing that has really caused division and problems, not only in society but in families, between those who are vaccinated, those who are not vaccinated. So there is a level of fear that has been generated, really, from the government, and then fueled by the mandates that have been imposed as well. So there's an aspect of where society seems to be divided, especially with the follow-up that that comes with the mandate, the vaccine mandate. So we've seen the vaccine passports that they were putting out there, the track and trace apps, and those passports which were needed to enter into different venues, and the government is rolling back on some of those things. But then there was still what they had put on travelers, the need to not only be vaccinated or multiple tests, or isolating for a period of time, all of those things. The easing up has been for those who are vaccinated, but not necessarily for those who are unvaccinated. So the government is essentially still creating a two-tier system. And with the latest thing that is going on with the NHS, for its own staff, the requirements and their job tied to it, is something really that really goes against the Nuremberg Code. It seems to be coercion, because your employment, your livelihood is tied to taking a vaccine, and that in itself is, there seems to be an ethical issue there, and that presents a problem for believers who don't want to take the vaccine, who believe in bodily autonomy and freedom of choice and so forth. Even though historically there has been a requirement for medical staff to be vaccinated, I think for hepatitis B and maybe others. But the nature of those vaccines have been different from this new technology. So with this new technology, they are new to being tested on humans, and this in itself creates a problem because of the speed in which they're being produced, and that there is no long-term data to fully advise individuals, concerning their long-term effectiveness. So, a lot of this information is on the government website, and they give you the information concerning it, and from the MHRA also outlines that information as well. So it's one that needs a lot of prayer. So I've only dealt with an aspect of what I hope to cover, and I'm looking to explore the rest of the issues, the concerns that I've outlined, and I didn't want to take up the time to go through the whole, all of the issues, so that in the next presentation, when I'll have a lot more of the stuff in the presentation again, as in brief, and then move on to the next concern, and then we can explore that with questions. So, are there any other questions?
Yeah, just a point. The mRNA vaccine research has been on since the 80s. The guy who started it, Richard Malone, actually started in 1988. The problem with him was that he didn't finish his PhD. And that was the problem, that he got discredited by a lot of people. But here's the problem. He fell out with his supervisor, left, and then the same faculty took on his research and started producing mRNA things. And so you then say to yourself, they've had this for so long. And then why does the world panic as if it's a new technology? It's not a new technology. It isn't. Yeah, it isn't. It's been since the 80s.
Yeah.
So I think the social media sometimes
it's been out for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been out for quite a while. See that. So in order to answer this, it will bleed over into the next area, and so I wanted to contain it. So you know, it's been used on soldiers in various vaccines before, so it does have a long history, but it has never been used en masse on humans. And the animal trials that this technology was being used on were not successful, right? You know, so it hadn't reached approval for human use, and you know, that really only came when the World Health Organization declared a pandemic, right? You know, Britain itself had seen the COVID-19 virus, and they had downgraded it, and that was in March 2020. But once the World Health Organization had declared that a pandemic, then, you know, these things were, and it was only allowed through an emergency use protocol. So the emergency use protocol allowed it to be used on populations around the world when it hadn't generally received any approval from the CDC or the FDA. So, you know, they could only encourage people to take it, you know, and incentivize the taking of that, but they could not impose it on people, you know. So, you know, people took it of their free will because of the narrative that was being told. The narrative is that this is the only way to quash COVID-19, but, you know, that really was not the case. There were other means, but those means were being denied, you know, because this narrative, this particular means of trying to control COVID-19, you know, to quash the pandemic, this was the means that was agreed to be used, and no other means was really allowed or being pushed. You know, so it's a difficult scenario that we find ourselves in when we are not allowed to use other means. We're not allowed to use other means that are effective. All right, someone raised their hand.
Yes, yes, it's Omo. Thank you for this program. I'm just thinking, and I just want to say thanks to Elder, oh, he just spoke now, because it seems I feel
Oh, okay.
I don't know going forward, because I don't know, I still feel this presentation is, I don't want to say biased, but I don't know, is there a possibility to have other people maybe
Yeah,
I
on
don't,
the panel. Yes, I do have
yes,
people that
please,
will.
because I just think it's good to hear from different people. You know, because regarding this issue of COVID, I've listened to so many webinars, you know, I work with the NHS, so we've had opportunities to listen to pharmacists and all kinds of people. So I still think, you know, if we're going to have more of this, it would be nice to have other people. We have experts in different fields. We could have a pharmacist, we could have a, you know, somebody in bio, whatever. You know, I just think it will come across more balanced. That's just what I'm thinking. Looking in,
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I feel
I hear
about
you.
it.
I hear you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at the data and the sources, and I know it can seem unbalanced because most of what I've discovered is really in one direction, and so there is also what the government is saying. So this is why I'm saying there are two narratives. One is in support of it, in support of vaccines, but vaccines have a long history, and there are many books that I've been trying to go through. Vance Farrell and his book, The Vaccine Crisis, and then another. He's an Adventist minister, and these books were written, I think, in the 80s. And then another one which he has written, Why Vaccines Are Dangerous. And so I was looking for information in support of vaccines, and so I found one which I'm still trying to go through, which is called The Case for Vaccine Mandates, and this one was written. This was written in 2020. So yeah, I'm still bringing it together, and I do have some people who will form part of the panel. This is just the first presentation, and I've only just looked at one aspect of it. So I'm still trying to get other people on board who will be able to speak to that as well. So I presented essentially one aspect of it, but not all. So that is something that we'll still be looking at. I hope that answers your main concern.
Yes, I think it does. I just think we need to just have good discussions, and I'm glad Brother Max, sorry, I forgot his name earlier, you know, because again, it's not a topic a lot of us have lots very detailed knowledge about. I think people that there's a tendency to, I don't know, I need to put it in the right way, so I can be presented with different things, articles, and if I'm pro or anti or against something, I'll possibly lean towards what you know, I will feed myself with what I want to hear. So I just feel, and you said going forward, I think it would be nice to have other people,
Yeah.
you know, to have a full discussion about this this topic, because it's a very polarizing one and quite sensitive as well. So I just think it would be helpful.
Yeah, no, certainly. You know, it's a lot of you know, reading that has to be done, a lot of research to try and balance both sides. If I can find someone who can speak to that side, you know, the positive side of it, then you know, I'm looking for that person who could speak to that, and those who are on the opposite side as well. And And so as it stands, I'm only I've only just presented the first part, which is just looking at the two narratives. So one which is for, one which is against, and the information that I presented really was showing, okay, there is a basis for the possibility that it's been man-made because patents exist, research papers have been written, and so that shows that there is an aspect of where this has been created. And so then to look at exploring why would someone create something like this, for what purpose or for what function, then I can explore that in the next section. And you know, those people who would be on the panel could also speak to that as well. You know, whether they're for or against, you know, and to enlarge that.
Yeah, I was going to say that some of the panic that I have seen with the and the rhetoric about the vaccine is that it's been rapidly developed. Yes, it has been. One of the things that they did was they removed all the patent systems, and they actually put a seamless flow between labs internationally. So people would not have to start from scratch when someone is on stage 5. And so that way it made things quick. And then if you want to have a picture of what this means, smallpox killed nearly 300 million people worldwide. And they took 154 years to develop smallpox vaccine, right? So if people want to argue this in the same lines and let COVID-19 ride out its natural nature or natural cycle without intervening, then you're looking at similar figures before you can come back and say, oh, can we start looking for a vaccine? Now, is it forgivable in a world that we think science is advanced? Because I think the bitterness is to do with where this vaccine is, this virus has come from. The virus, where it has come from, becomes immaterial because now people are sick. Whether it's man-made, whether it's crossover from animals, it becomes immaterial. But what we have now is a problem. And how do you deal with the problem? Do you deal with the knowledge that you have, or are you going to sit and let it ride out its natural course? How are you going to do that? You don't know the cycle. It's a new thing. So that's the other problem. Spanish flu came around and killed about 50 million people. And you know, COVID total has only been 16. So the interventions of 16 million.
16 million?
Yes. So
yeah, but Spanish flu over what period of time?
That was only in 1918, 1919. That's how aggressive it was.
Oh,
a couple of years, yes.
Okay, early 20th century you're talking about.
Smallpox was 1790s. Yes, and we only managed to get rid of it when we got the vaccine in the 1950s. So what I'm saying is that the debate also has to be put in the context of what the other pandemics have done to the world population. Yeah, it's a lot of deaths, 300 million. It's a lot of deaths, 50 million. So the science people then say, look, what can we do best? And obviously, with what we have now, with freedom of information, and people can compare with old things, it's good to say, oh, it was rapidly developed in a rush. Perhaps it's not so good. Yes, but you're arguing because you're alive. So this is the other problem. So, and always the argument about producing things is one, do no harm, benefit people. Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. So I'm just putting it in context. I don't have a side to take. What I'm saying is, if you put in the context, the numbers of people that died from the different pandemics will show you why an agency has to come into place.
Yeah, you see, for me, the thing is...
Sorry, Elder Andrew. There are 3 hands which were raised. So we'll take you, Andrew, and then I think Elder Gary and others had also raised their hands. So continue, Andrew.
Yeah, you see, looking at both sides is always the best. See, for us, we are sitting here saying it's always the best. And I would have loved it if that was the same thinking again from the government point of view to say, guys, this is what we have. We have this pandemic. Here is the science from both sides. Because scientists are saying it's good, and yet the very science world is divided. The very scientific world is divided. The others are saying, no, it's not good. The others are saying, yes, it is good. So you can see that if the scientific world is this divided, what more of us? See what I mean? And if you remember, when the vaccine came out, it was, the prime ministers, the government were saying it's a choice, it's a personal choice. This is the information, so it's a personal choice. You choose to have it, that is absolutely fine. And then suddenly that then changed from it's a personal choice to it's now a mandatory.
Yeah.
That's where the challenge then comes. That and some people that I've talked to, they've always said that, why am I being forced to take something that, my choice has been taken away? Why is that? And then that then makes somebody start to suspect. So, what's the catch behind this? And some people are saying no, because they're saying, why is it being forced upon me? It has to be my personal choice. It's my body and it's my personal choice. So, see, for me, if the other side is also given the same platform as the yes side, so that, the debate is held at the same platform, then that will make more sense. You see, we have advanced scientifically, and as such, we should have the confidence to say, this is the no side and this is the yes side, and both sides produce, their results, their findings, their research, and then people will then know what's happening. See, the problem is we can never know whether this is good or not in this present day, because this is something that has just been rolled out. But later on, years down the line, that's when we are going to see the side effects or the benefits. Did it benefit the human society? Yes, it did. Or did it not? And I go back to the point of the antibiotics, where they were just prescribed willy-nilly. And it took the society years to discover that actually what we thought was good for us is not actually not good for us, because we now have bacteria that are now resistant to these medications. And so as a society, we are now at a crisis where we are now trying to come up with a solution to a problem that we created. And so for now, we can say, well, it's good for us, it's not good for us, but the real side effects or the real effects are going to be felt years down the line. And I think then we can say whether we made the right decision or not.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Andrew. Yeah. I mean, it's been stated clearly on the government websites, on the medical websites, that they don't have the long-term data. Even on the Pfizer and Moderna, they don't have the long-term data, to make a determination as to its effectiveness for individuals, especially like if you're looking at nursing mothers or those who are looking to have children and so forth. They've stated clearly that the long-term data is not there. They're saying it doesn't seem to pose a problem from some of the animal research that has been done, but the long-term data is not there. So then we don't know what how it affects certain individuals over a period of time, and no doubt after a period of time they will have that information, you know, how it's affected in individuals, because the VAERS site is there, it's the CDC site for adverse events, which is recorded on that site, you know, which represents 1% of how people have been affected. Not everyone goes onto the site, so you know, you'd probably have to multiply that figure that you see on their website to get a more realistic representation of how society has been affected. So the VAERS site is important for seeing how certain vaccines affect people, and also the UK yellow card site as well, which also outlines the adverse events that people have experienced as well. So when you're looking at pure data, and then you make comparisons between this current vaccine and other ones, then you'll see that there is a stark difference, because it's new technology. It hasn't been fully tested for use on you know, populations around the world, and you know, its release for use really only serves the purpose of gathering data and seeing its effectiveness over a period of time. You know, so that is the fundamental thing, is that, well, if we had long-term information to say how it will affect people, then people would have more confidence in taking vaccines in general. So it doesn't just apply to this one, but in vaccines in general. Just that this one has been developed rapidly and well, under unusual circumstances. Gary, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. This is my concern. It's not so much with the virus, because there's no doubt that people are getting sick. But my concern is with the vaccination. Those who take it and those who wish not to take it, yes, it's their choice. You know, because in this country and in the Western world, we love to promote freedom of choice. But why is it that those who chose not to take it or refuse to take it, why should they be in the crosshair? Why should you be penalized if you refuse to take something within your body which you feel or think won't benefit you? And if you somehow not so much for it, why, if you say anything, you are considered to be giving misinformation? So if the government and if NHS is so confident that this vaccination is beneficial and is helpful and is good, why don't they publish what percentage of people is in the hospital who are getting sick, who are vaccinated, compared with those who are not vaccinated and in hospital? Why can't they do that to show or to prove, yes, then this is good, rather than threatening those who say, I'm not so sure if I want it? You know, why even your very livelihood should be at stake? Why should your freedom of traveling using transportation should be at stake if you refuse, or if you think twice, say, you know, I'm not quite sure, you know, I want this thing in my body. So that's really my concern.
I hear that, yeah. The response seems to be inordinate and you know, out of proportion with not wanting to take a vaccine. I mean, generally that hasn't posed a problem, you know, in society, but in this instance, laws have been introduced, mandates have been imposed, and yeah, as you said, it's threatened people's liberty of movement, you know, even of choice. Choice is being threatened as well, especially for the NHS workers at the moment. So it's a question that is troubling many in society. You know, last Sabbath there was a rally, there was a march to 10 Downing Street. Many NHS workers were demonstrating, and really were one of the main slogans was, "How can you clap us and then sack us?" You know, and so they threw piles of their uniforms outside Number 10, and really that only preceded the committee discussion, the government discussion on Monday concerning this mandate to vaccinate NHS staff, and you know, the no jab, no job. And so in this committee, there were a number of MPs who discussed the issue, and they gave their concerns. The thing is, all of the MPs said, look, we are for vaccines. We're for vaccines. We are fully vaccinated and boosted, and we're for it. But many of our constituencies, you know, are not happy with the mandate to impose this upon people. And then they were looking at the potential loss of NHS staff, which is up to 70,000 in one instance, 100,000 another. So the total that they were estimating was approximating up to 170,000 people potentially to be sacked from the NHS, which would create a crisis. Just this week, I saw that on the government website, they were introducing these health visas, where you can come into the UK through a health visa. So you can go straight into employment within the NHS essentially. So if you have skills in the area, any part of the world, you can come into the UK that way. I see another hand, that there are 4 hands at the moment. So we have Pam, and then Sylvanus, main user. I'm not sure who you are. If that's you, Andrew, I'm not sure.
That's me, Sister Olive. Main user, Sister Olive.
Oh, okay, so all right. So Pam, Sylvanus, and then we'll have you, Sister Olive, and then Max. Okay.
Hi, Pastor. Thanks.
Right.
My concern is twofold, and Brother Gary dealt with the first one, which is the response to not taking a vaccine is really not proportionate. And yeah, so I won't go over that again because Brother Gary went through that. But it just strikes me as odd that, you know, Brother Max outlined the different types of flus and viruses that we had in the past, really huge death tolls as well. And those type of things were not put in effect. You know, vaccines weren't forced on people or their civil liberties stopped. So yeah, it's just interesting. But the other thing is that's a concern is the testing kits. And the testing kits, as you all know, has the bud that you put in your nose or the back of your throat. And when you read the packaging to that, it actually has ethylene oxide in it, which has carcinogenic properties. And to me, that's a concern because our children are being tested at school. Well, my grandkids are not because I've opted out, but I don't know if people even know that. And a lot of this is around the fact that people are not clear, the information isn't clear, as Sister Omo said. Sometimes it's very one-sided and people just don't even know what to do. But, you know, to know that something has ethylene oxide in that does have that type of property and be asking our children to test every other day, that is regular use. It's you know, I just don't understand that logic as well. And that worries me about our children and the impact, the long-term impact that that could potentially have on our children. But yeah, they were my main two concerns that I wanted to outline.
Okay, thank you for that. Speaking to the testing kits, there was a retired policeman who actually levied a charge against an MP who was ordering, I think this was in Liverpool, he was ordering these test kits in, which were coming from China, and he cited the fact that there was ethylene oxide and other materials that were harmful to the human body, and he basically registered a charge against the MP for the MP to be taken to court concerning that. He also registered the fact that he considered it to be bioterrorism, and that's also been registered in a letter by a number of lawyers, a team of people and doctors, taking the UK government to court, to the World Court, concerning what they consider to be threats to the UK population. All right, so we have Sylvanus.
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes.
I think, thank you, Brother Gary and Sister Pam and the Pastor for that presentation. I think what we need is balanced information here, because up until now, what we have is the government front, which for me, from the outset, I see that as psychological conditioning of people. But the point I want to make here is vaccines have been there for a long time. Yes. When we talk about vaccines being responsible for eradicating diseases, where is the control? Where is the reference point? We have to think about that. Because there are so many things that could actually make diseases to thrive. So when we say it helps in eradicating smallpox and so forth, what was the condition of people then? Their living conditions, other aspects that, other things that impacted their lives, were those taken into consideration in making that, coming up with the outcome that they had. They're saying that vaccines help in eradicating. That's the question there. So before we take that and run with it, let's think about the fact that we see that up until the point that smallpox or whatever was eradicated, there has been improvements in the standard of living of people as well. Yes? So these need to be taken into consideration. How did this impact the survival of people? Then, the other issue for me, which is something I've always asked, is I don't think that anybody really, most people are not, who are saying they're not taking it, they're not anti-vaccine. If you ask them, they have taken vaccines before.
Oh, yeah.
You see? They've taken vaccines, but we know from the outset, when this news broke, the front has always been, we are not going to be safe until the vaccine is available. So it's already, people have been conditioned, it's either vaccine or nothing. People will, I think it's really worrying that the governments are willing for people to die except you take the vaccine. When there are other things that could be used, when has that been done other than this very COVID situation? Yes? Even if you want to use your money to get that, they blocked it, or they've made that very other option so difficult that in this case, when this started, I've said this so many times, you go to your doctor or you take a test, that carcinogenic one too that Sister Pam just said, and you're positive. They tell you to go home, and they know the stages of the progression of this illness. They tell you to go home and lock yourself up until you get worse. Then you come to the hospital, right? What sort of management of illness is that? Well, that's another question that probably somebody will answer for us here. Yeah. But most importantly, really, is about choice. People have to make their decisions as to whether I want it or not to want it. All the other vaccines that have been said, or if you are traveling to another country, you take all of these medications, you take it to protect yourself. You don't go telling all the other people, you take your own, I'm taking mine, because I'm coming. This whole thing has been turned on its head because of the propaganda that is going out there within all the governments of the world. Any other dissenting voices that they are dissenting, they quash it. So why? The question is why? I'm going to stop there. I think there's so much in this. But again, it is a choice. Yeah. Anybody that wants to take, you take it. Based on the research you have done, you take it. And the government should equally allow those who do not want to, not to.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sister Florence. I think you highlighted an important point there. So many of us have been vaccinated in the past, so we've taken all the vaccines and so forth, but this one has posed questions in people's minds, and so then the word that is used is vaccine hesitancy. It's not as if they haven't had vaccines before, but they are hesitant about taking this particular one, and that they're not fully convinced. I mean that's the real issue. They're not fully convinced, and then even those who are not fully convinced to then impose it upon them, regardless of their personal choice. That is where the ethical lines are blurred, and it also becomes a problem for Christians who believe, well, I'm really it's a matter of conscience for me, and I prayed about it and so forth, and I don't believe it's the right move for me. But the church's position doesn't seem to support their choice not to take it, and this is where the problem comes, because the General Conference believe in this sensible use of vaccines. So because they have made that statement, those who are placed in a situation of conscience and and belief, they believe fundamentally that is something that they don't believe is right for them, then the church doesn't support it. So in this recent document from the Welsh advisory, if I can find it, then I'll read it to you if I can find it quickly. But it makes okay. I think I've got it. All right. So there's a statement that is made in this document. So I'll just tell you what the document is. Let me just get to the first page. So this is COVID-19 Moral and Ethical Advisory Group Wales meeting. This is the 10th of December 2020. So they make this statement where they say, from a Christian perspective, medicine is not un-Christian. And then it comes to another point further down where it says, exception for faith groups exist if a link can be proven between religious beliefs in opposition to the vaccine. The message, so then their response, the message needs to be clear. This is a routine health intervention, not a major medical invasive procedure. So, so the part where an exception can be made for faith groups if they can prove, you know, according to their religious belief, that it's against their religious beliefs. But if the organization itself is in support of that, then you can't stand on that the foundation of religious belief, because your organization itself is promoting the safe, you know, the safe and the sensible use of vaccines. All right, main user, Sister Olive.
Yes, thank you, Pastor, for the research and info that you've given us. There has been a lot of information circulating ever since this pandemic started about what is real and what is true and what is happening. And people are, I think, at a stage where they were confused as to, because we weren't hearing the truth. We don't know what the truth is. And some of your fact finding that you just that you read out to us tonight has cemented the things that some of us were thinking, that it was a man-made thing, and that's the basis on which some people have made their decision that they're not going to take the vaccine. And also the fact that they are making a lot of money out of this pandemic. You know, they're making a lot of money out of it. People who are traveling have to come back and stay in a hotel for nearly £2,000 to isolate. The test that we have to send off for is something like £80 upwards. Why is all of this money making thing happening when we are in a pandemic? We also hearing that that someone in the government has made millions out of making those special masks. And I'm not going to start calling names now, but two people are benefiting greatly from this amount of money. Now, as far as I can see, I see it as one, a money-making thing, another one as scaring people to death. Of course, people have died from it. And Brother Max, what Brother Max says, 16 million, which is a fraction of what happened to the earlier pandemics. But 16 million is a lot of people. Well, you know, it's a lot of people. Yeah. And now we're talking about, we're now thought that we were coming out of it, only to hear that every Tom, Dick, and Harry is getting COVID now, more than, well, I don't know if it's more than it was before, but people are still uncertain. And also that people have a choice. People should have a choice. People should be able to say, yes, I don't want that. Going with what Brother Gary said earlier, I do not want that in my body. I don't know what it is, and from all the news that's been going around, I don't want something that I'm not sure about in my body. So why are people being forced now to take something that they decide that they don't want? That's one of my questions. And also the other major one is why are they making a lot of money out of this dilemma? Okay. They should not be selling masks and selling this and selling that and we shouldn't have to be paying for tests, £80 and more. And this is not by the NHS. It's another company that's doing this. It's not the NHS that's taking this test when you want to travel that costs you £80 or more. So why have they got the go ahead to start making money out of this dilemma?
Yeah, it's true. I hope to explore some of that in our next presentation. Some of these questions. So I think we have 2 more, and then we will look to have a season of prayer, and then close. Because the advertised time is from 4:30 to 6:30. All right, so Max and then Dillon.
Yeah, just a couple of points. The money issue is also what's caused bitterness because of the way the Americans have done it. Dr. Anthony Fauci, for some reason, he basically began to allow research workers to get dividends, which is really unethical. But they've done that with the American system. When they discover something, they put it on hold, register a patent, and make ways to get money back to the researchers. Now, the problem is this. If the data is not exactly up to scratch as to the efficacy of something you're making, you're not likely to be honest about it, especially if you're getting dividends back. And this is where a lot of people are angry, and it is sensible to be upset about it, because it's just unethical, and it's only found in the States. Why? They say they are the leaders of all these things, but what they are doing is completely unethical. You cannot say people that are researching a vaccine to sell it, they get dividends. It doesn't work like that. But they have done that, and it's gone unchallenged. People have tried to voice it, and they can't get to this Dr. Anthony Fauci. They can't. And then the other thing about medical ethics, there is respect and justice in medical ethics. Though medical ethics are basically a moral code, they can't be legally taken to court. You cannot, it's just a moral code. That's the problem. It's a toothless thing. But the European Agency for Evaluation of Medical Products basically has rules on the medical products that come into England. And so the swabs have got a stipulated amount of ethylene oxide they're allowed. So you can go on their website, it's there. The minimum is a picogram. And they basically have discussed the swabs. It's on their website. Yeah, that the amount of ethylene oxide is negligible. It's really tiny amounts. So that's why they have been certified as safe to use. And then the other point is the compulsory vaccination of COVID-19 has caused a lot of problems, yet there are other vaccines that are compulsory with health workers, such as Hep B. And the people have not fought against that. So I wonder, you see, this is why this disease writes new books and new things, because when we got into the NHS, Hep B was compulsory. Even from where I came from, Hep B was compulsory. And if you don't have Hep B vaccination, they would not let you in. If you have Hep B vaccine in the past, so check your titers, antibody titers. If they are below par, you'd have to have a booster. And so that is coming in the face of now COVID-19 is coming. The problem with the COVID-19 is that they don't have the data to say that an unvaccinated person is a threat to even vaccinated people. The data is not there. You see, the quality of data rises. The best being I'm saying there's no data to argue a case that unvaccinated people are not safe. Because here's the problem: people have had COVID. Now they've got natural immunity, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're still being forced to be vaccinated. And yet they've demonstrated that the naturally immunized people, antibodies are probably higher than the ones who've had the vaccines. And the data is there. But they're still forcing people to have vaccinations. It is a very difficult one. However, the law is very difficult with that. Dismissals are very difficult on vaccinations because the human rights include what's called integrity, physical integrity. You can refuse to have things done on your body. So it's physical integrity can actually, but then the argument is there is protection of health, which also overrides things because they can drag protection of health into a natural security threat, which then drags into human rights, which then makes them force people. But I don't think that the United Kingdom would ever be put in a position like that. It's the sectors that employ the most people that are a problem. NHS employs the biggest number of people. This is the problem. It's the biggest employer. So if NHS says compulsory, then it's a problem. It's a big problem. So how do you fight that? When other countries have followed suit, Austria, Brazil, Canada, they followed suit and made it compulsory. So it's a very difficult situation.
Yeah, Pastor, can I just say something? Sorry.
Oh, well, you're cutting in for Dylan. But if you're speaking to that point, then okay.
Yes, yeah, that's the point that I want to speak to. That most NHS workers are quite scared, but I've gone through the process, and I went through it with my manager, and there's a form that you have to complete if you're not vaccinated and if you're not going to be vaccinated. What they ask your manager to do is to first of all look within his team if you can be removed from face-to-face contacts with people. If you can move to that position, then your job is secured. There won't be any problems. Your manager signs those forms and fills them and then sends them off to human resources. And so far, human resources are quite happy with whatever your manager brings back to them. So, like for me, it was easy to just, switch my role from face-to-face to my managerial role, where I can do supervision of staff online, where if need be, I can review patients online. And that is absolutely fine. It's only when within the team that you're working with, you can't be moved from face-to-face contacts. That's where the problem comes. So although they're saying no jab, no job, when you actually go deep and look at the paperwork that has to be completed by your manager before they start the dismissal proceedings, there is quite a leeway where you can just be shifted from one position to the other and you keep your job.
But that often depends on the band that you're in within the NHS. So if you're within a band where you can go across, I mean, if you're just a regular nurse or an anesthetist or technician of some kind, you may not have that opportunity to move across into a non-client-facing role. And that's part of the problem. So that means if they can't redeploy you, then it means that they will probably let you go. The outcome of the discussion, the government discussion, the committee that was on Monday at 6 in the evening, the outcome was the ayes have it. So there was consensus, there was agreement that this should not be rolled out because of the loss that would that the NHS would incur, the loss of staff. And it remains to be seen whether the government will listen to the findings of that committee and take it on board. But it seems that they are intent with going ahead. Dylan.
Yes, good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Pastor for the information Also, I want to thank everybody for sharing the input. Now, I have a question. Jab or no jab? Do you need it for salvation? And before you answer, think about it. Jab or no jab? Do you need it for salvation? No. It is so amazing to see how we are worked up over these things that the Bible already spoken about. Now we're gonna see a time of trouble as never seen before, right? Now we are seeing precious souls out there dying because of what we are facing now, right? And what they really need is the vaccine, Jesus. And we have that vaccine. We have Jesus. Now, what I am noticing with the debate and all these things, it brings segregation. Now, we have those who are vaccinated, don't want to be around those who are non-vaccinated. And it even gets so, even escalate to the church of God when we're supposed to be a people who are united. Because the former rain fell upon the disciples when they were united. Now, in order for we to have that latter rain, we have to be united. Now, if we are not united, and this is the deception of the devil. Now, we know that the devil, he come to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But Jesus come to give life. Many of us who are taking a vaccine or not taking a vaccine, we are concerned about life. And it is true, right? But we have to remember Jesus and God is the giver of life. What if you take the vaccine today and end up in a car accident tomorrow and you die? Did the vaccine save you? No. What if you don't take the vaccine today and you end up in a car accident and you die? Will not taking the vaccine save you? No. So we are worked up over the vaccine and job, no job, and all these things. When God tells us these things gonna come to pass, we have the 3 angel messages, and we have the message that we know that these trials, these persecution, these things that come upon God's people, it will come to pass. Now, what I would like to see that we, as believers, Bible-believing Christians, right, preach the word of God with power. Be united, because this argument that we have, I've been listening, and I get the conclusion I can see here that, listen, we don't know whether it was man-made or not. Whether it was man-made or not, we know the devil have his agenda. Now, we have to be wise as serpent, as harmless as dove, because we are seeing that this argument that we have in here, it is bringing segregation in the church. And people are very sensitive, and we have to preach the word of God. We have to make people know whether you take it or you didn't take it, God can still save you. And he's in the saving business. And I want to encourage us here, let this not be something that, you know what, it could bring a segregation. We could get the information, we can share knowledge, because knowledge increasing as we know, but the word of God stands tall. Understand? Because I believe there are many sincere Christians here on this line who pray and ask God whether to take or whether not to take it. And I believe God gave everybody an answer, because I prayed about it and asked God whether to take it or not, and he told me to wait. And I've been speaking to many people who have prayed and God told them to wait. I've been speaking to many people who have prayed and God tell them to take it. Or so they say, God said to take it, and I'm not arguing that. But what I'm encouraging us here, whether you take it or you did not take it, you can still be saved for God's kingdom. But God wants us to be united going forward, so that our church would not be segregated, because we have people who are sensitive to this job, no job, and not being job. We have people who don't want to be around people who take it. We have people who don't want to be around people who haven't taken it. And we are seeing the division in the church. We are seeing the division from the conference, the head come down. And we have to find a way, right, to pray about these situations so that God could mend every relationship in the church, so that we don't get too occupied as the world, right, worrying about like a headless chicken. We have a savior, and he is the one that's going to save us in the long run, right? The information is good to know, right? But we need to know the Bible more and preach the Bible, and people understand, listen, that all these things are a shadow of things that must come to pass. But at the end, your relationship with Jesus is what really matters. Whether you take the jab or not, you can die taking the jab, you can die without taking the jab, but your relationship with God is what really matters in this life.
All right, thank you, Dilo. Thank you for your contribution. Yes, whether you take the jab or no jab, do you need it for salvation? That's, you know, that's a powerful question. Do you need it for question? And yeah, you know, when I broached that that question with a friend of mine, you know, a while ago, 2 weeks ago, you know, he himself was saying it's not a salvation issue. We all believe in Jesus Christ, you know, and we've taken vaccine for years. So, and we haven't asked ourselves the question whether our salvation is tied to this. You know, it's just in this instance, and the fear that's been generated, people have been questioning, have been fearful because of the, you know, the fear that's been whipped up concerning it, and so because the government has pushed that line as well. Yes, Jesus is our vaccine, and yes, you're right. You must be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And the division, you know, as I said earlier, can be in families as well. And so then we have to be loving in every situation. You know, and when it affects your family, and then there are issues in your family, then you feel it. You feel it more than even a church member, and then you have to realize, well, I need to resolve this, and how do I resolve this? You know, there must be discussion. There must be reconciliation. There must be acceptance. You know, all of these things come into being in order for us to move together. Because, you know, the scripture is clear, can two walk unless they agree, you know, and you can only reach that place when you have a process of discussion and, you know, acknowledgement, confession and so forth. And then there can be this coming together. So thank you for raising your very pertinent question there, Dylan. You know, we'll look to explore some of those things. But I also want to say, before I move on to Sylvanus and Max, you guys will be the last two. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but the Bible is clear. You know, these signs will follow those that believe. You know, they will tread upon scorpions and serpents. They will lay hands upon the sick, you know, and heal them. And if they drink any deadly thing, it will not harm them. And this is the thing: is that you know, in the Greek, to drink means to imbibe. So anything you take in is to drink, whether you drink something, you know, through your mouth, or you receive it through your eyes, or you receive it into your body through an injection. It is to drink, you know, to take in. And I think as believers, we have to accept that if we have taken something that we feel may be harmful, then we have to exercise our faith as believers, you know, so that no harm will come upon us in that respect. So, you know, God is our protector. And if we walk with him, you know, if his words are in us and if they abide in us and we abide in him, and then we may ask for the things that we need, and it will be done. And so we have to stand strong in our faith in God, regardless of our decision, whether we have taken or not taken the vaccine. We have to stand firm in our faith, because our faith is the deciding factor. You know, fundamentally, it's the deciding factor. All right. So I would encourage you to be strong in your faith, to draw close to God, so that the signs following the believers will fall upon you. Sylvanus and then Matt.
Good evening, Pastor. Thank you for the opportunity you have given me to speak. I also thank Brother Max for mentioning the fact that even those that have caught the COVID and have developed the immune system are being forced to vaccinate. Well, why that is the case, I don't know. But whether somebody is vaccinated or not vaccinated, this is the point that I want to make. There are some information that we should have, either from the government or from the health system, that we have not had to protect ourselves. The fact that boosting your immune system through the vitamins, vitamin D, zinc, we have not had that. Apart from, I had that from one doctor that is retired and another one speaking directly from Israel in his own practice and how it works. How the people in his practice have lower, the COVID has not affected them as much because of the system he had put his patients through. Now, why is it that another medicine like ivermectin cheap? My friend went to one of the chemists and asked the chemist in England here if he could obtain ivermectin, which could reduce that, the antenna raise, because they thought maybe he was a spy coming to spy them out. They refused to give that. Why is the government not mentioning this? Why is it that it is only one system of treatment that is available? Then again, having said that, it is for individuals to choose whether you want to vaccinate or you do not want to vaccinate. I personally believe that all the information should be made available. No treatment should be banned from. Say, for example, as Sister Florence mentioned earlier, if you are sick, nobody sends you home. You go in quarantine, they should make a provision and say, okay, you take this, maybe it will be all right at the end, but they wait until this develops to a certain level. So begin to suspect what is going on here. If you have headache and maybe you are dehydrated, somebody will ask you to drink water to make sure, to eliminate that it's because it's not because you are dehydrated. But in this particular disease, they tell you to go and start at home for 14 days. So I can't understand it. That is the question I want to ask.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, we have a lot of questions concerning these things, and hopefully we can explore some of those. I mean, I do have a lot of information, and I've only looked at a fraction of that this evening. Max, you're the final hand.
Oh, it's actually me.
Oh.
Good evening, Pastor.
All right.
So I joined in the discussions a bit late, but it's been very helpful and very useful. And I know because there's been a lot of back and forth in some of the groups with regards to this. I just felt that I don't know whether is there going to be like a separate platform to kind of address these kind of issues separately from the groups that are I'm guessing were probably created more for prayer and devotionals, because I know that there's been a lot of activity with regards to, this whole topic, and a lot of debate. And I was just wondering whether is it the right platform for us to be putting our views, because obviously we need to respect each other's decisions. Yeah, and so that was just my concern, that I don't know whether we're using the WhatsApp groups for the right purpose.
Yeah, well, the WhatsApp group itself is not for that discussion, unless we set up one specifically for those discussions. Generally we're sticklers for protocol. If a group is for a particular purpose, then we like to stick to that purpose. And anything that seems to be out of sorts, then we're not happy with that. So when it comes to the Wednesday night prayer group, that's not the forum to have the discussion around vaccines and so forth and people's opinions. That's not really the forum. I think we would have to create another one if we wanted a WhatsApp discussion around that. Then it would be acceptable. Then any who wanted to join that could actually join that. But this is the place for us to be able to talk, really. So, to present some information, hopefully have a panel of people where we can have opinions, professional opinions as well, and then then there can be more question and answers regarding those things that are raised and that have been presented. So I mean, as it stands at the moment, I'm trying to straddle both sides of the argument, but I presented the information as I found it, and there's more to that as well. So which I'm hoping to have others that will be able to to present the other side more clearly as well. We've just looked at the two narratives really, and asked questions around the two narratives. But I do believe that this is the place where we can have a greater discussion than simply posting comments on a WhatsApp group that is not specifically set up for those discussions.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question, Stenda.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I want to thank everyone for
a science of the devil. What is soon coming upon us? What is soon coming upon us? If God has ever spoken by me, you will before long hear of a wonderful science. A science of the devil. Its aim will be to make of no account God and Jesus Christ whom he has sent. Some will exalt this false science, and through them Satan will seek to make void the law of God.
Great miracles will be performed in the sight of men in behalf of this wonderful science.
A science of the devil. What is soon coming upon us? A science of the devil. Seducing spirits are coming in. What is soon coming upon us? If God has ever spoken by me,
you will before long hear of a wonderful science.
A science of the devil. Its aim will be to make of no account God and Jesus Christ whom he has sent.
Some will exalt this false science, and through them Satan will seek to make void the law of God. Great miracles will be performed in the sight of men in behalf of this wonderful science.
A science of the devil. What is soon coming upon us? A science of the devil. Seducing spirits are coming in. Satan works through the elements also
to garner his harvest of unprepared souls. He has studied the secrets of the laboratories of nature, and he uses all his power to control the elements as far as God allows. When he was suffered to afflict Job, how quickly flocks and herds, servants, houses, children were swept away one trouble succeeding another, as in a moment. It is God that shields his creatures and hedges them in from the power of the destroyer.
A science of the devil, what is soon coming upon us? A science of the devil, seducing spirits are coming in.
The Christian world have shown contempt for the law of Jehovah, and the Lord will do just what he has declared that he would. He will withdraw his blessings from the earth and remove his protecting care from those who are rebelling against his law and teaching and forcing others to do the same. Satan has control of all whom God does not especially guard. He will favor and prosper some in order to further his own designs, and he will bring trouble upon others and lead men to believe that it is God who is afflicting them.
A science of the devil, what is soon coming upon us? A science of the devil, seducing spirits are coming in.
The end of all things is near at hand. The signs are rapidly fulfilling. Yet it would seem that but few realize that the day of the Lord is coming, swiftly, silently,
as a thief in the night. Many are saying peace and safety, unless they are watching and waiting for their Lord. They will be taken as in a snare. A science of the devil, what is soon coming upon us? A science of the devil, seducing spirits are coming in.
the end of all things is near at hand.
The signs are rapidly fulfilling. Yet it would seem that but few realize that the day of the Lord is coming. The end of all things is near at hand. The signs are rapidly fulfilling. Yet it would seem that but few realize that the day of the Lord is coming, swiftly, silently, as a thief in the night. Many are saying peace and safety, unless they are watching and waiting for their Lord. They will be taken as in a snare, a science of the devil. What is soon coming upon